Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to yet another developer interview courtesy of Game Devs of Color Expo 2024. I am one of your two hosts this experience, the Purple Sharpie at your service, and I am so incredibly excited to be joined by three different members of E-Line Media. Nahasa Brooke, Rainey Hobson, Rachel, and Corey. Thank you so much for taking time to be here today.
Thank you for having us.
Very quickly, can you go ahead and provide a very quick synopsis about your newest project that has just been announced, Never Alone 2?
Just like the first game, it's based off of Inupiaq mythology, but this time it's going to be multiple mythological stories.
I believe we actually have an exclusive trailer here. Let's go ahead and run it. So Rainey, I'd like to start with you here. I just want to preface all of this by saying that I did actually have an opportunity to play the original Never Alone, and what an amazing experience that was. The game is very, very fulfilling as a player to experience, and I also felt closer to Indigenous culture through it. Can you talk to me about something that I noticed inside of that game, which I'd be excited to see if it's repeated inside Never Alone 2, but the narrator. I believe he uses a tradition that's very common inside of Indigenous culture called oral tradition, which is basically the recounting of stories and history through elders and older people inside of generations to a younger generation. Talk to us about a little bit more about whether or not we can expect that inside Never Alone 2, and why oral tradition is important specifically inside of this game as a narrative device.
Oral tradition is extremely important in our culture because that's how we transfer histories. It's how we teach about our environment and about our life and our culture to the younger generation. And so it's important to us because we need to preserve that kind of talent, if you say. It's extremely important to preserve that type of way of transferring information, and I think this game will do a really good job of that.
When you're coming up for different concepts of the treks that you wanted to have Nuna and Fox traverse through inside of this world, did you struggle at all to find ways to translate those oral traditions into actual mechanics and stories that the characters would basically be able to showcase to the player?
Well, the way that the narrative is built in Never Alone 2, I wasn't involved in Never Alone 1. But in Never Alone 2, we built a completely unique story, and it's based off of many different pieces of mythology and kind of mythological creatures and beings. And what we did was we took those stories and we used them as bones. And then around those bones, we are packing around culture, actual culture, and modern kind of experiences that our people have.
So I actually want to go to you here, Rachel, because I think that Rainey actually touched on something very, very important, which is that a lot of new people were actually brought on to this project. Can you tell us a little bit more about the type of people that have been brought on to help create Never Alone 2?
Yes. We actually only have one person who is returning from the first game, Casey McDonald, who is now our creative director. He's been a really big champion of the culture and has been bringing back some of the things that he learned from Never Alone 1 into Never Alone 2. With this team, we were also very fortunate to hire Indigenous talent. So for the first time, we have actually brought on somebody who is Inupiaq as our VFX artist, Bristol Sonatu, which really perpetuates the E-Line concept of inclusive development, which is where we believe that we build better games when we build it with our partners and not necessarily for them. And so it's just been really exciting to see the way that this game has really developed with this new talent, and we hope to bring this culture to life in that way.
So Rachel, I just had a very quick follow-up question here. What is your favorite part of working here at Eline Media? What do you enjoy the most about working with your coworkers?
I think due to the nature of the projects that Eline does, and especially the types of subjects that we cover in Never Alone, we attract a lot of people who are deeply empathetic and deeply invested in understanding and perpetuating Inupiaq culture and learning more about the Alaska Native traditions. You see a lot of that really deep enthusiasm and a lot of excitement for how the developers can learn more and express that through their art, their creativity, and their talents to bring this game to life.
It sounds amazing, truthfully. And I'm so happy that you're able to have such a fulfilling, basically emotion when you're working on a project like this. I want to take the questions now over to the game mechanics and talk a little bit more about the level design. Specifically, I want to go over to you here, Corey. How did inspiration from different locations, physical or otherwise, inspire you all to create the settings that you all made inside of Never Alone 2?
Yes, so for Never Alone 2, with everything that we do, we're very deeply inspired by the real lived Alaskan Native experience. And so we're definitely looking to expand on the first game and to create new environments. We want everything to be very deeply connected to the experience of what it's like to move through different places in real world Alaska. But we do have kind of a fantastical and whimsical spin on things sometimes. So you'll see new biomes, and we also want to surprise our players. We want to introduce people to parts of Alaska that they maybe weren't familiar with, didn't know that existed in real life, or didn't know that there was specific cultural traditions around certain places. So we want to surprise, but also to just kind of bring in that beauty and awe of the world and the natural landscape throughout our environments.
Rainey, I want to go back to you, kind of latching on to what Corey said here earlier, which is you all have very, very deep roots inside of Indigenous cultures on this project. As Rachel also said earlier, there is someone on the VFX team who is Indigenous and kind of leads their voice into different aspects of creation here on this project. But I wanted to ask, outside of that VFX manner, did you all consult anyone specifically about what you wanted to have inside of this game in order to properly reflect Indigenous culture?
Yeah. So I talk a lot with elders that I've known for, it's probably been more than like 20 years. I have several mentors who helped me develop the story for this game by providing a lot of historical kind of records. There's a lot of recordings of elders talking about stories. There's a lot of me reading dusty, moldy smelling books and also relying just on my recollection of growing up with storytellers and the types of stories and the content of those stories and those myths. I was lucky enough to have several storytellers in my life growing up. And so I relied heavily on the stories that they told me when I was younger.
Now, Rachel, I believe that you all also worked with an organization called CITC. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that?
Yes, that is the Cook Inlet Travel Council, and they are a significant stakeholder in this project. They were actually the ones who inspired the creation of the first game of Never Alone. They also helped us in partnership with the Alaska Native Heritage Center, who were also significant subject matter experts, or even connected us to subject matter experts that really helped us develop this game. It was really important to them, both the Cook Inlet Tribal Council and the Alaska Native Heritage Center that we hear from a variety of voices, and in order to ensure authenticity and to hear from a wide variety of experiences, as Alaska is a very large place, and so no one lived experience is the same. So it was really amazing to like work with all of these wonderful people across different organizations to create this game.
So Corey, I'd like to ask you another question. We've heard from both Rainey and Rachel about how important Indigenous culture is inside of this project. Can you share a little bit more about what your favorite part is of bringing things like oral traditions and other cultures that may not necessarily have material form to life through levels?
Sure. So I think everyone on the team really, really enjoys our sessions with any of our Alaska Native kind of experts and storytellers, where we get a lot of inspiration for the things that we do in the game. I think there's so many beautiful, creative, unique stories that, especially people from outside the culture, it's brand new. We've never heard anything like it. And it's really interesting to explore, okay, how can we communicate that through a gameplay mechanic to be experienced by these two players? How can we turn that into something you interact with in the environment? Or how could this be augmented by hearing in spoken Inupiaq the narration of what the two characters, our main characters, Nuna and Fox, are going through as they explore this world? So it's probably my favorite thing, is to try and think of how we translate stories or activities or artifacts or things that are involved in this culture that come from our storytellers to things that you can do with a controller in the virtual world of the game. So trying to think of how to translate those things into gameplay mechanics and cinematic moments in the game is really enjoyable for me.
So I wasn't going to ask this question, but now Corey has put some tantalizing new information in front of me, and I have to ask, Rainey, I'm going to go to you for this, right? Inside of the original Never Alone, we saw different spirits and entities helping Nuna and Fox traverse around this Arctic landscape. I understand that there's very limited things you can tell us about it, but can you kind of tell us what we may expect in terms of new characters, new NPCs, or even just some new spirits inside of Never Alone 2?
I can say that there is a whole cast of characters, so it's not going to be one or two. And also that these are characters that are incredibly unique to our culture, and I'm really, really excited for everybody to meet them.
Okay. Now I see. Now I really want to ask even more questions. You know that? But I'm not going to, out of respect to our audience, because we are unfortunately running out of time. I want to thank you all again for being here today. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
Well, viewers, that's going to do it for yet another game developer interview here at Game Devs of Color Expo 2024. If you're interested in checking out Never Alone 2, soon to be announced, I would highly recommend wishlisting it on Steam and watching for the eventual release in 2025. That's going to do it for me, but stay tuned because we have even more Game Devs of Color Expo 2024.